Welcome to the Positively You podcast. I'm your host, Jessie Larson, and I'm passionate about helping you shift the way you think so you can create a life you're absolutely obsessed with. Each week, I'll be bringing you a guest or a thought that's going to help you feel more optimistic and equipped to take real action. Get ready to push past limiting beliefs, ditch that negativity, and start showing up as the best and most positive version of you. Girl, let's do this. Hey, welcome back to the Positively You podcast. I'm your host, Jessie, and we have a guest, Jess, today. So you get double dose of Jess, which is going to be a whole lot of fun. And I cannot wait to introduce her to you because I found her, I don't even know, like the Explore page on Instagram, and quickly has become my favorite follow. I love when her little bubble pops up on the top of my stories, and she's just so much fun. So I'll stop gushing for a second. Jess, do you want to say hi and introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm the other Jess in the Jessie Jess combo today. We found each other through Instagram, and I had started my Instagram a few months ago, solely focused on the idea of books. And I thought, this would be a fun way to track the books I want to read this year. But very quickly, much like things on the internet do, it morphed. I kind of took on a life where now I'm doing book reactions to the Throne of Glass series and improving stories and doing chaotic questions with my followers every night. And it's just been so much fun to explore it as an avenue of creativity. So that's what I've been up to these days when I'm not teaching all day long, which is my day job.
I love that. So yeah, I found Jess. She's got this Instagram account, The Lost Books of Jess. I will have it linked below so you guys can go follow her too because it's so much fun. But yeah, you're a middle school math teacher. And I love what ChatGPT did for me when I put in like all your info. And it was like, she is a middle school math teacher and a joy seeker from Central Pennsylvania, which I kind of loved because that feels like your whole thing. It's been this it started out as books, right? I'm going to go with these books, these lost books that I have on my bookshelf that I haven't had time for because, we can all relate to that. Like good intentions, we want to have fun, we want to read our books, and then we get lost in motherhood or our jobs and all of the other responsibilities that we have, and we stop having fun. And that's what I loved about you is it's kind of this like, hey, no, actually, we can have a lot of fun, and you've started doing it through books. But I want to talk a little bit and rewind because I think we can all relate to that about getting lost in either our careers or in motherhood. And is that something that you relate to? Are you with us in that?
Oh, I relate to that on so many levels. I feel like I've been through different phases of that in my life. Like I feel like phase one was getting lost in my career when I started teaching when I was 22, right out of college, and I went into it full force and made it honestly my entire identity. And I didn't have my son until I was 30, right? So then nearly a decade later, motherhood completely consumed me. And if people who are listening are also mothers, you know that that can completely hit you like a tidal force where you don't even know who you are anymore. So then I had both of those things battling. So I find myself now in my mid 30s trying to find my way out of those things or how to blend these parts of my life, right? How to still be a teacher, a mother. And I love what ChatGPT said, a joy seeker. I'm going to steal that from now on because I don't want to ever let those pieces of myself go, but I also don't want one of them to be the whole thing that I am, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And it's kind of something that I feel like is almost not a trend, but something that we kind of like fall into or find ourselves kind of journeying through in our 30s. Is that like, oh, whoa, I went full send, either on my career, I went full send here, and then I've dropped off all of these other things. And and rather than feeling like, oh no, I've lost myself to this, it can be more of this fun thing of, wow, now that I'm aware, I get to have a lot of fun rediscovering these things. And I think that that's kind of a really key mindset shift to have of shifting into fun and not feeling like, oh, well, crap, I lost myself.
Yeah, I was just going to agree with you that I think that these things can always be married, right? And there's fun to have in all of the things you want to be, right? Like fun can be a theme across all of them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So I want to talk then and shift a little bit into the power of books because I think I've had a lot of fun with connecting through others with books. Hi, we have the Positively You book club that we're doing every single month. So obviously, those of you listening, that I am big on that. But Jess, I love what you've been doing here with growing this community through books. And you have a quote that you've said books are an extremely powerful force for connecting humans. Why do you think that?
I think that that quote resonates for me because humans, especially adults, right? We get so trapped, like we were just saying, in our own lives, and we get so consumed with our individual problems. And I think also adults lose a lot of friendship sometimes too, right? Friendship is easier when you're a kid and you're going to school every day, and as an adult, it's harder, right? And I have found books to be this unifying force where through the characters and through the themes in the book, I feel more connected to other people, whether
Mm.
I get to talk to them about the books or not. Either I'm identifying with the characters or I run into somebody at the library who's holding the same book I want to hold. And all of a sudden now we're talking about it. The internet, Bookstagram, Book Talk, these places where people who are frankly across the world from each other are saying, oh my gosh, that book taught me so much about the grief I was dealing with. And I'm saying, yeah, me too. I went through that also. People who I would have never otherwise because we have a common book. And I think that that is amazing that words on paper can pull people together who would have never known each other otherwise.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love that you brought that up because you're not normally going to have a very deep, quick conversation with a stranger about grief, like normally, right?
No,
Like, hello,
no.
person also getting their mail or something like. And so it's this really cool way of being able to connect on a deeper level with humans very quickly, which I think, you hit the nail on the head saying we lose a lot of our friendships, we lose up a lot of our connections. So, what an easy and tangible thing to have to be able to kind of like jumpstart some of these friendships and some of these relationships. I'm actually thinking about a time this last summer where I was in the airport and I was waiting for a flight and I had my book out and I was reading my book, which I'm so glad I was reading a physical book and not on my Kindle because the person across from me could see the book that I was reading and I was having a full-blown reaction, like crying and everything in the airport. It was fine. But then I went to the bathroom and I was walking out and she was walking in and said, "Hey, I just saw you reading that book. What did you think about it?" And I was like, "Well, if you saw me reading the book, you know what I think," because I was full blown crying. And I had ended up just finishing it. So we sat there and talked for a minute. And then I actually handed her the book and gave it to her and said, "I'm done with this. Enjoy your flight. Read this book." And I had this connection with a stranger in an airport in the middle of who knows wherever. Really cool. Right. And normally, like, I would have just passed by a stranger in the bathroom in the airport and not even had a conversation or a connection or anything. And so it's not like we started this lifelong friendship and we're now like best friend pen pals or whatever. I don't even know her name, but it was just this quick little connection. And I think that books are super powerful like that. That's a tangible way, but the internet, I have a love-hate relationship with the internet and with social media, and I love what you're doing here because it is like you all of a sudden have tens of thousands of more friends because of your reading adventures.
That is wild to me. Very wild. And the fact that people are so willing to jump into conversations about books, like you just said, like you wouldn't walk up to a stranger and be like, tell me about your life problems. But
Right.
people who mutually read books are so quick to be like, yes, I want to tell you what I thought about that book, and we're going to talk about it for hours, which leads to other conversations. It's wild.
Yes, absolutely. So we're getting deep here a little bit with all of the deep things and the conversations that we can have, but I've loved your reviews on The Throne of Glass. Number one, okay, so you guys, I have to give you the visual. Jess has these bulletin boards and post-it notes and like strings. It's like the conspiracy theory like post that you see of the guy who's like connecting all the things. If you've read Throne of Glass, you know that you actually kind of need that. But it's been so fun. But I've also really loved just your thoughts on it. And yeah, like you said, like diving into the deeper themes and connecting it to your life and all of this. So books serve obviously as this deeper way to examine our life and to examine friendships and connections with other people. But then there's the fun side of it, right? There's like the
Mhm.
deep side that we've dived into a little bit, but it is so much fun, and I wanna shift into the fun things and how these little tiny things that we can do to have more fun in our life. The book that we're reading for our book club this month is called The Fun Habit, and it's talking about that, about how we can, like, small, like, really tiny ways of infusing more fun into our life instead of, like, waiting for the weekend or waiting for the big vacation and then not having any source of fun until then. So, let's talk about how you have been able to incorporate more fun and have more fun in the simplest things.
Oh, that's a good question. I find fun every day. And I think the number one thing I've done to find fun and embrace fun is learning how to say yes. I feel like fun happens in so many small moments that we're quick to say no to, like the bulletin board, for example. I started this book, I realized how many characters there were, and I'm like, wouldn't it be funny if they were all tacked up somewhere like a detective in a police station? And instead of saying, no, that would be so dumb to be an adult who goes to Walmart and buys a bulletin board, I said, I have grown up money and I'm going to go buy the bulletin board because that sounds like a really fun art project. Right. And I would have never known at that time what that would spiral into. But I think the point I make is it comes back to saying yes to yourself. Like, you know what feels fun and learning how to recognize I feel fun and I feel joy right now. So I'm not going to stop. I'm going to say yes and I'm going to follow it is the simplest thing I can do. Stop saying no to
Ooh,
yourself.
I love that. And you even put that in the little form I sent you. Follow the fun. And I have it like highlighted and underlined and like exclamation point. Follow the fun. And I think that's as adults, kids do that so well. Kids follow the fun so well. They don't even second guess it. As adults, you touched on it. Oh, that is that weird? Is that weird for me to go to Walmart and buy a bulletin board? Is that weird? And we stop ourselves instead of just like, no, say yes, lean in, follow that fun, and amazing things happen. And your life becomes like this brighter shade of yellow. I don't know, whatever color you want. And it just becomes more vibrant and fun because you're saying yes and you're not second guessing. I think that's a big thing. Um, we just get bogged down with either are people going to make fun of us or is someone else going to think it's, cringe? I don't know. Are the kids still saying that? You're with kids all day. You probably know all the good slang.
I wish I understood the good slang. I'm going to be honest with you. I really think they're just making up words at this point. I'm sorry, Gen Z and Gen Alpha. I'm calling it what it is.
They really are. I'm gonna go off on a
I
tangent
don't,
here.
I don't,
There was there was a teacher I found on Instagram who he makes up words and then tricks his students into like thinking that they're real words. I'm sure you've seen him.
oh, I follow him and I frequently use the word pebbles because of him.
Yes.
So it's so funny.
Oh, so fun. But yeah, see, so even things like this, like just having fun, just following the fun more. But I do think, has that been something that you have had to overcome a little bit, that barrier of second guessing yourself? And I mean, you even said saying yes. So I'm sure you have stopping yourself from having fun.
A huge barrier because I think you started to touch on the biggest barrier to fun, right? Which is feeling vulnerable. I don't think
Yeah.
people associate vulnerability and fun as much as they should. And you have to be willing to open yourself up to the possibility of someone thinking what you're doing is weird if you want to have fun. And that was really hard for me. And I think one of the ways I overcame started doing improv at a local improv studio we have in my town. And that helped me release being nervous because the other adults around me were being vulnerable and having the same fun. And that's where like this idea started to grow that I
Mhm.
could do that too without them, like in my day-to-day life, because it wasn't embarrassing there. So maybe I need to stop thinking it will be embarrassing elsewhere.
Ooh, I love that. I talk a lot about the ripple effect of an action. And that's almost like the backwards one where you got into improv and you saw other people who were being, free and authentic, and that then their little ripple gave you the permission to do that. And then now you're showing up here. And I guarantee the ripple effects that you're having are giving other people the permission to, say something that they want to say or follow more fun or, I know that we've gotten our family. And so Jess does this thing at night called the chaos question that's been so fun on her Instagram. And just like even fun things like that, where it just gets you thinking and like having these funny discussions. And I love the ripple effect that is going out from you stepping into that. And I think that's a big thing. You said the word vulnerability. I think vulnerability to have fun and the authenticity and like showing that you're having fun gives the rest of us, I hate that we feel like we need permission or we need an example, but we do. And and it's so nice to have people that are out there having fun and being vulnerable and being authentic, because it is just like you said when you were in improv, it gives you that kind of bravery to kind of step into it too. So that's me saying thank you for being loud and authentic and being the fun you right now, because it's really doing a lot for a lot of people, even though it might just seem like a silly fun thing that you're doing for yourself.
I have to say, if 22-year-old Jess could hear this conversation right now, she would be floored that anyone was thanking me for being like loud, because I definitely also went through that phase where you try to repress that amount of
Yes.
fun because you want to fit in, right? And I think that's another element too, not only the vulnerability, but worrying, are people going to find me annoying? Am I going to fit in among people when I'm being my authentic self? And that you will. People find each other. And that's
Yes.
something I've learned through this journey as well, that it's worth it.
Absolutely. And I think this is a lesson too that not unfortunately, but it comes with age. It's part of why I've loved my 30s
Mhm.
so much is it's been so much of dropping off that wanting to fit in. And there's a Brene Brown quote that says, fitting in is, oh, I'm going to butcher it, but it's something to the effect of fitting in is the opposite of belonging. Because when you're fitting in, you're trying to change and you're trying to fit and you're trying to squeeze into all of these places. When you just belong, you get to just be you. So, like, vulnerability and authenticity is you belonging and not having to fit in. And so, I don't know if that's something that just like comes with when you are in your 30s and you get to kind of drop off all of these other insecurities and things like that. But yeah, I hope 22-year-old Jess can feel this message from us and be floored about it. Okay, so you've done this well. What tips do you have then besides saying yes? What tips do you have for somebody who's like, "Okay, sounds great, but" like, it's easy to say, "Just say yes." It's easy to say, "Be
Mhm.
vulnerable and be authentic," but, like, I'm a little nervous to do that. Do you have any tip or, like, a pep talk you give yourself or I don't know, what can you share with that?
I have 2 that come to mind. I'm gonna see if they make sense. I think
Okay.
one is to start small, right? You don't have to jump into the deep end of fun, authenticity, and vulnerability, right?
Yeah.
Seek out where you can showcase something like that. Either maybe you're just talking with a friend and you're like, you know what, I'm actually going to say what I want to say next, the way I want to say it, or in the goofy way that comes to mind. And I'm going to like test that because this person is a safe person,
Mm,
right? Starting small, I think, is really important because that builds that bravery. When those moments are successful and you don't crumble and fall because of them, well, now maybe you can try a bigger moment, a bigger step, right? I think a second one is finding people to do it with you if you can. Like, I hope
okay.
everyone out there has that safe friend or that safe family member who would do something silly, fun, or goofy with you. Because I find a buddy system is so helpful when you're trying something new. It's
Yeah.
hard to walk into a new place or do a new thing alone sometimes. I mean, more power to the people who confidently do things by themselves. But I know if I can convince somebody to come with me, I am more ready to. And those are my 2 tips for towing into the like fun in your life water. Probably the start small most of all.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Start small is like a huge motto of my life. If you're a listener of this podcast, you're like, wow, Jess, you like nailed that because that is my like number one tip for anything in life. I'm like, start small and probably start even smaller than you're thinking. Um, with that too, how do you get over this is kind of just like a part like B to this question, but the fear of other people making fun of you?
I don't know if I've ever actually gotten over that. I think that is a natural human emotion that you learn to live with, not get over, right? Just
Mm,
existing in this world, even if you don't think you're putting yourself out there, puts you in a position where people could make fun of you, right? But I think we learn coping strategies for dealing with it, right?
yep.
Thinking about, do the people who might say these things really matter to me, right? Like I think about strangers on the internet. I don't know who username 10725 is, and maybe they were in a really bad mood that day. They don't know what's in my heart and they don't really know me, right? I try to focus on what my friends are saying about me, and my
Mm,
friends are usually supporting me. And those are people that I trust and I know where their heart is. And I know that they would tell me if I was, being out of pocket. There's another Gen Z one for you, out of pocket. Is that what the kids say?
I have no
I feel
idea.
like I don't know. I feel like someone who really cares about me would let me know that in a compassionate way. And we have to learn that it's okay for people we don't care about to have opinions. We all have opinions in this world, and I don't have to let those opinions change what I think is fun.
I love what you said. I want to stamp this on our forehead. Um, we like people we don't care about, their opinions don't matter. We let that weigh on us so much. And I know, especially in the world of like social media and comments, we can have like a whole list of comments of like, you're amazing, blah, blah, blah. And just not even you're amazing or validating, but just like nice conversation. And then one person will jump in and be like, that was dumb. Why did you do that? Or something. And we'll sit there and ruminate on that one rather
Hmm.
than all of the good around us. And I think that that's such a good mindset shift too of being like, yeah, I don't know who username 17458 is. And why do I care? I don't. And again, much easier said than done, but that's a practice of
Hmm.
really figuring out where you want to put the energy of whose opinions you actually care about. And yeah, way easier said than done. But as you can continue to practice that through your life, having fun and saying yes, like you said, Jess, like just learning how to say yes more, that becomes such an easier, more like quick reaction because you're not weighing of like, oh, well, what about this? And what about this? And if so and so thinks this, you've learned to let all of those go so that you can just say yes quicker. And then the fun comes a lot faster and you have a lot more fun in
Hmm.
your life. So it's all of these little things put into practice that then give you the opportunity to have more fun and more joy in your life.
Yes. I definitely you hit the nail on the head there, and I would be lying if I said that comments people make don't get to me, right? Either in my real
Mhm.
life or online. Again, that's natural human emotion, but I think the toughness I'm referring to comes into having the courage to not let those things stop you, right?
Yeah.
They might happen, they might upset you, but you learn to let go of them faster and realize that the fun was more fun than the comment was hurtful. Like the fun outweighs the that little moment.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Really taking stock into it's kind of like what you value and just being really, really clear on where you're putting your energy and where you're allowing things to seek in, like to seep into your energy. And that takes practice and it takes a lot of self-awareness. And who knew that we needed to have so much self-awareness in order to have fun, but they kind of go together. All right, so Jess, I want to know what other fun things do you have going on? Because you guys, I'm literally like her link is down in the show notes. Go click there right now. She's the best follow on Instagram right now. And that's me like saying like no, don't even follow me. Like go follow Jess. She's great. Um but I love so you've got your book club or no. I jumped the gun. You've got you've got your bulletin boards and your book updates that you're doing all of the time and then in the morning I love your counter coffees. I love your chaos questions at night. Like it's just so much fun over there. You're just bringing so much joy and just like silliness that we need. There's a lot of doom scrolling and just other things that make us so like upset and irate on the internet and on social media. So it's just fun to have something silly as like a question about how do you eat your string cheese, which by the way, Jess does it wrong. But it's
I'm so
okay.
guilty. I know. I walked into that question knowing that I was going to be so much in trouble. And the funny thing I have to tell you, so last night, if those of you don't know what a chaos question is, I asked my Instagram followers, how do you eat your string cheese? Do you peel it or do you bite it? And the way this unfolds in my stories every night is then I answer and my husband answers and my son answers. And my son and I are both biters, and my husband is a peeler. But Jesse, the amount of DMs I got before people saw my answer and they went, "What monster bites spring cheese?" And I was like, "It's me. I'm the problem." And then people had to like backpedal and apologize. Please don't apologize. I am the problem.
Oh,
Sorry,
that's
I
hilarious.
sidetracked you there, but
No, no, but this speaks so perfectly to just the fun things, right? Like that's a silly question. It has no weight in the real world, right? But you said you got DMs and DMs and DMs of other people who now have this silly thought in their head too, and they're evaluating whether or not there is a right way to eat string cheese. Like it's just so silly. But those are the fun, nonsensical things that we need in our life as I'm reading this book, The Fun Habit, he was talking about like how much fun and we need in our lives. And there was this study and statistic done about like we should allocate at least 2 hours a day for fun. And that was like on the low end. There was another study that was like, no, you need to have at least 6 or 7 hours a day of fun. And people are like, how? Like, how do we do this? And that can seem incredibly hard, but when you are infusing little bits of fun into your day, and I talk about this all the time, you know, with like music or with books or with like fun conversations. So things like this, like that is a little hit of fun that isn't like, oh, I need to sit down and plan and make sure I schedule out fun. It's just kind of leaning into more the fun habit, what we're reading this month, but like just developing like a habit of fun where it's more infused in your life. And that's what I get from you is this like infusion of joy and of
Mhm.
fun.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and I try to work it into I've not read the book that you're talking about, but now I need to. I'm like walking away from this needing to read it. But I think that if you're going to get that much fun into your day, you have to find ways to work it into the things you're already doing.
Yeah.
And an example for me is before the chaos question was born, I actually already was doing a similar practice with my students at school. We start every single class period with a poll, like what is the best sneaker brand? And we spend like 5 minutes letting everybody share their answers and debate it. And we tally, math teacher and me, I have to, we tally the results. And the kids love it. And one day I did not do one, and they all came in, saw that there was no poll question, and they were ready to storm the gates because it was just a fun practice they were so accustomed to that I can see now connecting to your book, feeding into my hours of fun in my day, these 5 minute bursts with my students where we're just doing something silly.
Yeah.
Human connection.
Oh, I
Human
love
connection.
that. I wish I would have had you as a math teacher. It sounds so much more fun than what my experience
I
was.
might be promoting myself more than like any of my students would at this point in time, but that five
Oh,
minutes is fun.
oh, whatever. I'm sure they love you and adore you. But yeah, you should definitely read the book. It's great. And speaking of book clubs, because that's in ours, I know that that's something that you've kind of got on the horizon of this book club. So where can people come and connect with you, get the fun, find out all of the things that you've got going on? Because I know after this conversation, I would be running over to your page.
So most of the things that I do are on my Instagram, which you referenced, Jesse, but I'm getting ready to launch a book club on an app called Fable, which is kind of a reading tracking app slash a book club app. Like if people are familiar with Goodreads, it does those things as well, but it also allows for almost like a Discord style discussion board, but specific to books.
Okay.
So we have dubbed ourselves the Chaos Cadre Book Club. And it's launching in right around April 21st with the last Throne of Glass book because more people wanted to be able to follow along with me.
Mhm.
So we're going to try and do it through the app. And I will have a link in my Instagram bio when I'm ready to launch it so people can find me there. I'm also looking forward to the summer of my own about the joys of reading specifically because I have a lot to say about it and a lot of people I'd love to talk to about it. So I'd say like my Instagram, the book club, and the maybe potential podcast are my three big projects happening right now.
Awesome. I love it so much. And I just love that this is a like real-time example of following the fun and the opportunities and the things that can open up to you because well, I don't guarantee you. I'm willing to bet at the beginning of the year you didn't have a list of grow an Instagram, start a book club, launch a podcast, right? And so it's so fun what can happen when you just like you said, Jess, when you say yes, when you follow the fun, when you go to Walmart and buy the bulletin board and record yourself with a little pointer and all of the things, and people latch on and have fun with it. And so that's just, not that you need to have your fun develop into anything big, but just the world opens up when we say yes. And when we follow the fun, and then we get to have more joy in our life. Life is hard, right? We've got a lot of stuff going on. Adulting is, man, someone should have warned us, but but it can be a lot of fun too. And I really appreciate the people who remind me of that because I can get lost in my anxiety loops and my doom scrolling and all of the other things. And so it's
Mhm.
so fun when there are people who can help kind of pull us back out of that. So thanks for following the fun, Jess.
Oh, thank you for being interested in my following of the fun. I'm still that has to be the number one thing that's happened to me is I started so much of this just to find my own fun and the amount of people who want to have fun with me is the other like cherry on the sundae of fun for me that other people want to join in. So thank you.
Love it. All right. Well, go have some fun today, everybody. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next week. Thank you for hanging out with me again today. I'm so glad you pressed play. If you want to take a quick second to share this episode with someone you think would love it too, that would be amazing. If you're loving the show, make sure you go and leave a review on iTunes. Reviews are like magic for podcasts, and your review will help get this show into the ears of more amazing women just like you. And come find me over on Instagram. I'm there at positively.jessie, and I cannot wait to hang out with you some more. So until next time, have an amazing week.